Hi, it's Richard and Craig with the final feedback video for this run of the course. Just checking, can you hear me up there, Craig?
Yeah, look, Richard, I'm really taking social distancing pretty seriously at the moment. So there's no viruses up here, but I can see you down there. And
Yep.
yeah, and everybody else, in fact, who's doing the course at the moment.
Well, once again, Craig, there's been some fantastic comments happening on our forums, some really great conversations happening. And of course, this week was all about integrating mindfulness practice into everyday life. And this is, I guess, in some ways a very important time, as we've said before in these videos, a very important time to be practicing mindfulness. I mean, first of all, a lot of people have additional time in which they can meditate and start to practice and apply some of these principles. And of course, with the level of anxiety around the world, with all of the other challenges, I guess it's a very powerful time to be learning to stay present and to not react to what's happening.
Oh, yes. And I think, we've got about 15,000 learners doing this course at the moment all around the world. And so I think that sense of community, that sense of being a part of something has really helped to break down some of that isolation that many people are experiencing. So in a funny kind of way, if there's something good that comes from this COVID-19, it's that so many people have connected in other ways, and also such a level of interest in mindfulness. There's such a need for it at the moment.
Yeah, so perhaps a greater level of connection with ourselves and also with others. So that's perhaps one of the silver linings perhaps of this crisis, that a lot of people are starting to ask questions like, what's important? How do I want to spend my time? Who's important? Who do I want to connect with? Certainly hearing a lot of really nice stories like that. Hey, some of our learners also have started talking about how they're able to take a step back from emotions or situations and start to respond, pausing and then responding rather than reacting to things. And that, of course, somebody mentioned the quote from Frankl, which is to paraphrase it, between stimulus and response is a space. And that space is really our agency and our power to choose how we respond to things. And I think for most of us, before we start practicing mindfulness, that space is very small. There's the stimulus and the response pretty quickly. But, with each meditation that we do and each time that we practice mindfulness, that space starts to grow and starts to grow. So after a while, maybe thoughts can go through the mind, emotions can show up in the body, even reactions that we have to things can start to emerge, but we have some awareness of them. And rather than just getting swept away by it, we can start to choose, is that really how I want to respond to this situation?
Yes, and I think the awareness is really the key thing, because that space is always there. But when we're not mindful, we don't see it. But when we're mindful, we actually notice that there is that little space. And that's where we get to choose. And that's where the freedom lies, really. The freedom to, and it could be that we experience something within, flash of anger or fear or frustration or something else. But we're not controlled by it if we realize that space is there. But we are controlled by it if we're just on automatic pilot and going without, however we've habituated ourselves to react. And so that space is always there, but we have to be mindful. We have to be present to actually see it. And it can open and close pretty quickly.
Hey, Craig, speaking of the body, one of our learners asked a really interesting question about the relationship between hormones and emotions.
Yeah. It depends on what somebody means by hormones, because there are many different kinds of hormones. Of course, there's, the sex hormones and so on, but the ones we're talking about here perhaps are the mediators of the stress response. So those chemicals that communicate with the rest of our body when we're experiencing stress. So, and of course, how we perceive things, how we react to things has an effect, a cascading effect that pretty much starts off right up in the brain and then right through the whole body. But again, that window of opportunity we were talking about before, we have that ability to choose whether to switch on the stress response or not. There's the quick response. I can remember one time I was sitting there, I had a bare foot, and I noticed all of a sudden something tickling on the back of my foot. I looked down, and this thing that was moving across my foot was quite large, and it had 8 legs. So there was a very quick response, and kicked it off Now, there wasn't much choosing. Will I respond or won't I respond? It was like instantaneous. So there's that fast stress response. But then for the vast majority of things, it's a slow response. And that's where that window of opportunity to choose. We see something, somebody says something, but if we're aware, we actually realize I can choose the way that I respond to that. I can choose the way that I perceive that. And that can switch off that cascade of hormonal effects from the brain, the amygdala, all the way through our body.
Yep. Yeah. Also, lots of people exploring mindful eating this week, which is one of my favourite applications of mindfulness personally. I love eating things mindfully, but also hearing about other people's experiences, you know, because, I mean, a lot of people are at home now and comfort eating. I mean, the pantry's right there and there's the stress and anxiety and the TV's probably on a lot of the time. So this is a time that I think a lot of people could be eating very unmindfully. I saw that alcohol delivery sales in Australia increased 168% since the COVID crisis began. So, I mean, that gives you a sense of, you know, how people are perhaps spending their time. But some of our learners have really started to eat mindfully and to experience the powerful effects of that, of just perhaps not needing to control portions, but eating until they feel full and eating particular foods that their body needs or that they're attracted to, rather than just, you know, feeding their cravings. And I really like comments as well about the cultural differences. I mean, my partner's Italian, so I know all about the cultural differences. You know, it's a thing, isn't it, to sit down and have a meal and talk and really connect and enjoy that experience. Even the way that she cooks is very different, perhaps, to the way that I used to cook. You know, it's all about, I mean, there's lots of stuff everywhere and pots and pans, but it's the experience of cooking that's important. And it's actually really nice. I actually really like it.
Yes. And I think we've lost that. It's just like put the food in, refuel the car, get on and do the next thing. Yes. And eating's a simple pleasure in life. It helps us to be mindful, but it's just a simple pleasure in life. And there are so many simple pleasures that we miss when we're not mindful. The day can be full of thousands of them. You know, the sound of the birds that are singing. You know, the other morning I was on a run, it was early, and there was just some dew on this beautiful orb-weaving spider's web. And this spider, and just little things that are there all the time.
You normally miss if you're rushing around and lost in thoughts.
Yeah. And eating, I think, is a really important one. Some interesting, a very large study some years ago in the States, Michael Resnick, and it was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And so over 100,000 young people and families and life and they were looking at all the things that predicted well-being or the lack of it for young people. And there was a particular time in the day that was more important than any other. And that was the evening meal, for a family to have the evening meal together. And if that happened, the adolescent was far less likely to get into just about any, you know, form of mental, emotional health or other trouble you could think of. And it was such an important time of the day. And I think in many developed countries, so frenetically going on to the next thing, we've lost those simple moments of connection.
Yes.
And it's not just about the food, of course, in that environment. It's about connecting with people.
Yeah, that's right. And there are so many ways, and that was a theme, obviously, that came up this week, so many ways of practicing and applying mindfulness, whether it is sitting together with the family and having a meal, just setting up the home a little bit differently, walking for those people who aren't in lockdown, you know, mindful walking, just being outside and enjoying the environment is a really powerful thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not just about the physical activity, and as important as that is, especially at the moment, getting out and being active, but it's also about cultivating a restful state of mind. You know, for that period of time, life's no more complicated than just walking, just feeling the elements, being out in the environment. And so we give ourselves some mental rest if we even just do simple things mindfully. And I think a lot of our learners are really discovering that. Yeah. There were some interesting comments too about the meditations as well, and particularly longer ones. And one commenter tried as much as possible to enjoy this meditation, but you know, the mind kept on getting distracted. And it's an interesting thing to just be curious about that as well when sitting down to meditate. trying to enjoy it, trying to stop the mind wandering. And if we get curious about that, isn't that interesting? Look at the effect of that. It puts a pressure on the meditation as well. So if we can just, in a sense, keep the meditation practice simple as well, rather than trying to have the experience we think we should be having, then it can certainly make the whole process a lot simpler.
It's a paradox, isn't it, that if we're meditating and we're trying to have a particular experience, on some level, I guess we're comparing the experience we're having now with some sense of how it should be. Mm. So certainly some part of the mind there is evaluating what's happening rather than just being with it. And also perhaps off in the future thinking about, like, when am I going to relax? Am I relaxed yet? Still not relaxed. What's going on with this meditation?
Hurry up, I've got to relax.
Hurry up and relax. And so the paradox is that we have to let go of that. And it's when we let go of the comparison and the sort of the waiting for something to happen that we actually start to be present. And in that moment, that's usually when we do actually start to perhaps relax, or at least just be present with things the way they are without reacting to them.
Yeah, and relaxed with, and it could be relaxed with tension, relaxed with
that's right,
around level of frustration or fear, but we're learning to cultivate a gentler way of being with that. Yeah. Learning to be more relaxed about the fact that the mind does what the mind does. It's okay. Yeah. So we can just be a little bit gentler with ourselves when we're practicing. It makes it a lot easier.
Definitely. And creativity was a big topic that came up this week, and how mindfulness can sometimes help us be more creative.
Yeah, which is an interesting thing to discover, because many people think, if the mind's not so active, then I won't be creative. Mm. Well, it's actually all that fog and activity in the mind that clouds our ability to be creative. So generally the best thing to do is to create some mental space before engaging with dealing with a problem, or, making a decision, or to do something creative. Although there are different kinds of creativity, and some were noticing that or asking the question about, is problem solving a different kind of creativity to, say, doing something artistic? And there are different kinds of creativity. And yes. So in a kind of a way as well, the mindfulness helps to unblock the mind, but I think it also is important too, that very often there are mindsets we have as well that confront us. We sit down to do something creative, and there's a kind of a mindset, I'm not a creative person, this won't be easy for me. And
I'm not good at this, I can't draw, I can't sing, I can't sort of whatever. So many limiting beliefs come up sometimes.
Yeah, and so non-attachment, just noticing that belief comes up, non-reactivity to it, just letting it go, just letting space create to, sooner or later, just see what comes up. And it doesn't matter. This sort of acceptance, it doesn't matter if the creative idea is not the best idea of all time. It's just learning to go with the flow of creativity, with less of the judging and the criticizing. And that can make the whole process a whole lot easier as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's been a fantastic course once again. Lots of really great conversations, and obviously some very deep learning. I mean, some of these comments that we read, they really show that out of a 4-week course, people really get a lot of value, particularly those who really sort of engage with it. So for the learners out there, there's a possibility of upgrading. It's an optional upgrade, which would give you access to all of the course materials forever. Otherwise, the materials are available, for another couple of weeks perhaps, and then they go away. We've got our Part 2 course, Maintaining a Mindful Laugh, starting on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, Craig, up there in space. And we'd certainly encourage you, any of you who really like this course, please rate and review it on Class Central or any of the other, and we'll put some links of places where you can do that, because that really helps to get the word out so other people can hear about it and join the course as well. We've got a YouTube channel, Monash Mindfulness YouTube channel, where we put out a lot of really interesting videos, some mindful moments, some short videos and some longer ones on different topics. So feel free to continue following us there. But otherwise, I'd just like to thank the team once again. There's so much happening behind the scenes. And so it's, you see us every week, but there's obviously so many people working very hard to make this happen. So to our mentors, Sherelle and Liz, and to all the team at Monash, just like to express some appreciation to you.
Yeah, and we just really love working with everybody on these courses, not just behind the scenes, but all of our learners, and love reading the ways in which this has changed people's lives for the better. So it really makes us feel very happy, and makes all this work that goes on at Monash from all the team really worthwhile.
Yeah. So to everybody, stay well, stay calm, stay mindful, and best wishes with everything.
Bye for now.